Hello. Today on the What If Brigade, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about overlooked everyday carry. Uh, and for those of you, most of you who've seen online and lists or videos, all sorts of cool things that people carry around. Perhaps a knife, perhaps a flashlight, perhaps a couple ways to make fire. If you're in the United States and not in France, perhaps a single stack 9mm. But we're going to be talking about some of the things that people overlook in those everyday carry lists. And I'm going to start out with a hat, not a cap. Hats are one of my favorite things. So this is a great place to start. And the reason I'm talking about this on the What If Brigade is because a little something I'm going to call exposure. And exposure is basically the way that most people who are stranded in the wilderness die. It also happens to people who are in war situations or severe weather events, those kinds of things. Essentially, they don't have the appropriate clothing and shelter for the environment, and they rapidly expire. You can die of exposure in as little as 3 hours. Now, some of you might be saying, well, you could fall off a cliff, or be eaten by a bear, or get shot. Those are way faster than 3 hours. But you have to climb up the mountain to get up on the cliff, and bear deaths are statistically very rare, only occur in certain areas. And again, you kind of have to get way out in the wilderness before the bear gets to you. And if you get shot, you're probably in Chicago. You're probably not in any sort of survival situation. But the big thing about exposure is even when it doesn't kill you, it makes everything harder. When people talk about starting fire, they often choose methods. They specifically say, could you do that when you're frostbitten, when you're cold, when you're exhausted, when you're tired? And the best way to fight this is, not just easy fire starting methods, but to just avoid getting exposure in the first place. And that starts at the top of your head with your hat. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for all of the hat hair that will be appearing in this video, but a lot of the time when I see people talking about everyday carry, they're wearing a cap. Sorry, this one's a couple decades old, but they're wearing a cap. And, and a cap is designed for baseball, and it's really excellent for driving a vehicle. If you've got a truck or a car, you got one of these in there, it keeps the sun out of your eyes just wonderfully, even better than those visors do sometimes. You're not gonna, hit the side on anything. Your ears are unobstructed, and this will work outside for a limited time. If you're playing golf or playing baseball, as long as you have sunscreen for your ears and the back of your neck, you're fine. But in an extreme environment, like say it gets really hot, like in a tropical area or a desert, or it's pouring rain for hours, this is not going to work. It's completely inadequate to shelter you from the sun. It's completely inadequate to shelter you from the rain. And before you say, but wait, I'm going to combine it with a hood, well, let me say a couple things here. First of all, you're probably not going to want to wear a hooded sweatshirt in the desert. And this isn't really going to help all that much in the rain. And it really restricts your peripheral vision. Not super helpful there. I'm not always going to do this, but just for today, I'm going to go ahead and do an everyday carry staple where people say two is one and one is none. And, that comes up a lot. Maybe your friend loses their hat. Maybe your wife or kids forgot to bring their hat. Maybe somebody loses a hat. So you might need a hat that's for you and a hat that's for your kid. But the big thing that I want to get to is that when a lot of times people they put together these everyday carry lists and they got really fantastic equipment, and this hat is not ready for anything. It's not ready for everything. It's not ready for anything. It is not the best hat that you can get. It is a hat for civilization, a hat for driving. So with that, I want to talk about, my hat a little bit. This hat's from Australia. I got it online, and yeah, it's $50, but there's cheaper versions at Fleet Farm or whatever. I like it for a variety of reasons. It keeps off the rain, of course, keeps off the sun. It has a breathable mesh, so it works. It works really well in the heat. It really lets the heat off of my head. Protects the back of my neck a little bit from the sun, the back of my ears. Probably still be more comfortable with sunscreen, but in an emergency, the hat will do, and it folds really flat for storage. You can just put this in a backpack or a suitcase or in your overhead bin, and it comes right back up. Very nice. It's got a little string to keep it from blowing off in the wind. And this is a hat. And there's hats for, and some people might say, well, what are you gonna do if it's cold? Well, I've got these earmuffs here. You just put those on with the hat. What are you gonna do if there's bugs? Well, you can just put on a little bug net. And by the way, this bug net works a lot better with a brim that goes all the way around than it does with a cap. Now, obviously, if it gets really cold, I'm gonna switch hats. Maybe I'll do a little R2-D2 knit cap. Okay, that's probably not ideal. Forgive me, I'm in France. I don't have my knit wool cap collection. But if I'm in Minnesota and it's got sub-zero temperatures, I'm gonna go all out with a hat. This is my below zero hat, and it is ready for that colder weather. And if it's a fall day like today, and I don't necessarily want breathable mesh that lets the heat out, I might go with a hat that doesn't necessarily have a lot of breathable mesh. It gets warm on top, but not too much. But the nice part is you can still have that hood, and you can still have your hat that's in your car for driving around and civilized thing. But this is going to keep your ears open, so you have good hearing. It's got good peripheral vision. It's great in the rain. Keeps the rain off of you so you can see. If there are branches, they're usually going to hit this first before they stick right into your eye. Excellent protection from the sun, and just all around a great hat. Now, if you are in some sort of situation, you have to leave your home because of a forest fire or a hurricane or whatever, you could make a hat. You can make anything. You can make a friction fire. You can make a water filter. You can make a hat. But if the sun is beating down on your head, or you are very, very cold, or the rain is pouring on you, making a hat is one of those things that it's going to take you a long time, and you're probably better off switching to a different strategy at that point. But if you have a hat, that's going to add a lot of time in terms of how much exposure you can stand in the outdoors, how long you can stay out, how good you feel when you are out, and really kind of changing the game in terms of what you've got. So this is my overlooked everyday carry, and for the first one, I'm going with hats.